and welcome back in to the Eye of the Storm podcast, where we are here to talk all things Iowa State Cyclones and the Big 12 Conference. On today's edition, the 9th-ranked Iowa State men and the Iowa State women's basketball teams break losing streaks, picking up big-time midweek wins over inferior competition, but big wins all the same. We will talk about all of it and look ahead to Saturday and Sunday games and preview those coming up. 87-57 was the score from Hilton Coliseum on Tuesday night. The 9th-ranked Iowa State Cyclones take down UCF by 30 points. I had a lot of notes watching this game because there were a lot of things that the Cyclones did wrong during their two losses last week, and many of them were better on Tuesday. There were a lot of things that looked like they had looked at on film and really cleaned up and fixed as opposed to last week. And I think it begins on the offensive end because Iowa State's defense was not great last week, but it has been a constant relatively that they have been able to rely on even when their offense has been rough. But last week the offense really felt like it took a step back, and that was not the case on Tuesday. The big word for me from this game was balance, and it starts, you can see it in the box score. Iowa State starters made field goals on the game. 4 for Blake Buchanan, 6 for Jefferson, 7 for Milan Momcilovic, 5 for Torre, and only 2 for Lipsy, which you could almost argue is a good thing because that's one of your primary offensive pieces, and you only need him to make 2 shots in the game. He also had 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 steals, so it was not a down game by any means for Tamin Lipsy, who also looked as healthy as we've seen him recently. And this extends to the bench, too, this balance. 3 made field goals for Plata and 5 for Jamarian Bateman. I love that he got 11 shots from the field in the game. That's huge for Iowa State, and if they want their offense to take another step going forward, they're going to need more of that from him. But this game, it just got off on the right foot for Iowa State because they got Milan Momcilovic the ball off the jump in this one. A key theme from the season, from games where the Cyclones have struggled, especially recently, is that they have started slow on the offensive end, as Milan Momcilovic has started slow on the offensive end. Not to say that he's been missing shots, but they haven't gotten him shots early on in these games. On Tuesday, he had 2 looks at 3 in the Cyclones' first 4 trips. He made neither of those. However, because of those looks that the Cyclones got Momcilovic early on from 3, all of their spacing was better. The offense had more room to work with because they made the defense respect their three-point shooting ability. Killian Torre was also a big part of that, making 2 early threes. And this is kind of the paradox here, right? Momcilovic has been the shot maker for Iowa State. Torre hasn't been much of a threat at all. But even when Momcilovic is missing, he can be a threat. When Torre is making them, he can be a threat. And all of a sudden, you have, 4 shooters on the floor in your starting lineup between Momcilovic, Torre, Lipsy, and Jefferson. 4 guys who can make threes, and that opens up the paint for your Blake Buchanans, for your Don Platas. Between them, they went 7 of 10 from the floor in this game. They had 19 points between them. Free throw shooting, not great. You expect that at the 5 position. It looked to me like Iowa State migrated from an inside-out approach that they took at Kansas last week. It didn't work. They took it at Cincinnati. It worked a little bit early, but it wasn't sustainable. And they changed to an outside-in approach. That's part of what it means to give Momcilovic those early 3-point shots. And with him, he's so good that, again, even when he's missing, the outside-in approach to the offense opens up the paint because you force the defense to get out and guard the 3-point line. They did a lot of perimeter passing, which a lot of times coaches will tell you is not good. And a lot of the time, they would be right. You don't want to pass the ball too much around the perimeter if you're not doing anything with it. But in this case, what the Cyclones did was they continually got themselves looks at feeding the ball inside. Their passes resulted in either open threes or a chance to get the ball down to Jefferson or Buchanan. They weren't pointless passes made by players under pressure, just trying to get the ball out of their hands. They were intentional passes. The ball moved to places it needed to go, and it opened up new opportunities for the offense to score. Not only were they able to feed the bigs inside, they were able to hit cutters. We saw it with Heisey, his only bucket of the game on a backdoor cut. Same with Bateman, who looks like a great cutter. We haven't really seen a ton of it this year, but as he started to get more minutes, get into the offensive flow more, get the ball in his hands more, we've also seen him develop a confidence and an ability to cut. He's got the speed and the quickness to be really effective at it, and he showed on Tuesday that he can finish around the rim effectively. Now, speaking of finishing around the rim, that was an area where the Cyclones still struggled in this game. I mentioned Plata and Buchanan going 7 of 10. That was good, but Iowa State still missed a lot of layups just in the first half. UCF at one point went on a 7-0 run to cut Iowa State's lead from 12 to 5. In that run, Iowa State had missed layups or shots from inside of 6 feet from Heisey, Lipsey, and Bateman. Jefferson and Buchanan missed multiple of those looks in the first half. Now, those were the only two that Buchanan missed, so it was a better job from him in this game, finishing at the rim. But as a team, it really has been a struggle all season when Iowa State, especially recently, has not been playing their best basketball. It was still a struggle on Tuesday. Now, Iowa State got to the free throw line. They shot well enough from three. They rebounded, and they forced enough turnovers to the point where it didn't matter. It was a great game, but that is something that they're going to have to get better at going forward. And it's not an existential terminal type problem. It is something that you can just clean up, and you can do different things, whether that's playing off of 2 feet more, getting into contact. 2 feet, I would love to see, especially Jefferson and Buchanan both playing off of 2 feet more. Jefferson is at his best when he plays off of 2 feet in the paint. We've seen this with his baseline drives when he has gotten contact, when he's gotten to the line, and when he's made baskets have been when he plays off 2 feet. So Iowa State needs to see more of that. But overall, you're just going to have to be better finishing inside the paint if you're going to make a deep run in March. This is a March sport, and that's what we're all looking for the Cyclones to do. But, man, the overall balance in this game, the ability for Iowa State to move the ball quickly, to not get stuck, to not turn it over. They only had 5 turnovers in this game. That's been a huge problem. 5 turnovers, and 2 of them were from Tamin Lipsey, who has seen his assist-to-turnover ratio that was leading the nation by a long stretch. It's kind of plummeted, and he still hasn't turned the ball over a lot. That's what's amazing about just how good that ratio was for him. He can turn it over twice in a game and take a significant hit to his ratio. That's okay. He turns it over twice for Plata, 1 for Heisey. Guys, no one else on this team had a turnover. 0 turnovers for Blake Buchanan, 0 for Joshua Jefferson, who has the most turnovers on this team and has been prone at times. 0 for Killian Torre. 0 for Momcilovic, who's done a very good job taking care of the ball all season. And 0 from Bateman, despite having a much more active role in the offense. He wasn't sped up. He wasn't out of control. The game didn't look like it was moving too fast for him. Guys, how encouraging is that? After a week where you turn it over many, many times in the Kansas game, in the Cincinnati game, Iowa State was outscored by a ridiculous amount on points off of turnovers last week. This game, I believe Iowa State had more points off of turnovers in the first half than they did all of last week. Clearly a problem. They forced more turnovers than they did all of last week. They outscored Central Florida, 31-5 off of turnovers in this game. That is always probably going to be the key stat for Iowa State teams under TJ Otzelberger, and that's the number you got to see. And that's the difference in this game, right? It's a 30-point win, and all of that margin, 26 points of that margin, is in points off of turnovers. In the half court, this is basically a straight-up game. which just underscores how important it is for Iowa State to continue to find ways to force turnovers. And I have some thoughts on that too. Iowa State brought fewer double teams than they have, but when they brought them, they brought it harder. They really brought it full send 100%. I love this for a couple of reasons. One, if you don't blitz every ball screen, you just keep the offense guessing. If the offense knows what's coming, which we saw last week, Iowa State had been blitzing ball screens all year, bringing the double team with Buchanan. Teams knew it was coming, and they had figured it out. That doesn't mean it can't still be an effective strategy. It just means you can't do it all the time. And on Tuesday, they didn't come out and do it on every possession. They picked their spots, and because of that, they were able to bring extra hard double teams. When you're not doing it on every possession, it doesn't sap as much of your energy. You have fresher legs. It's easier to do it 100% with 100% effort when you're not doing it on every single play. And that really kept Central Florida off balance. I was really impressed. It was just a really good adjustment by this coaching staff to make. I assume that was all intentional. I assume they looked at film and said, hey, we're going to pick our spots maybe a little bit more. We're going to be more intense when we bring the ball pressure. And it worked really well. Iowa State forced 19 turnovers in this game, 6 from Themis Folks, the Central Florida leading scorer. Everyone in the UCF starting lineup had a turnover, even 5 off their bench. Phenomenal numbers there. They also threw a zone look, I believe, in early on at the 14:50 mark of this game. They threw in what I think is a 1-3-1. Again, keeping the other team off balance. Teams have gotten so comfortable and so used to playing against Iowa State's double team ball pressure defense. Not on Tuesday. They mixed it up without sacrificing their identity of pressuring the ball, of bringing that double team and forcing turnovers. They maintained the identity while still making adjustments. That is how you win games. Now it's how you'll win games throughout the rest of Big 12 play. That's how you win games in March. That was really good to see just from a schematic standpoint. Another thing that I noticed during this game was Buchanan didn't come nearly as far out when they did double team. They kept him a lot closer to the three-point line than they have. In the past, we've seen him get out on those traps way 8-10 feet past the three-point line out at the logo. And that's been effective at times. It's gotten them beat at times because that's a lot of open space in the paint that he has none occupying. And if you bring a help defender down, there's open three-point shooters. They didn't bring him nearly as far out, and that made it easier for him to get back and defend the paint. Iowa State was very effective at keeping UCF out of the paint in this game. You only gave them 11 two-point field goals. They went 11 of 25. From inside the arc. That's 44%, and only 25 attempts. They took 32 threes. A phenomenal number there. Anytime, honestly, I think for Iowa State, if you force the other team to shoot more three-pointers than two-pointers, that's going to be probably a good defensive effort. Now, teams can beat you with good shooting days, but one of the things you do when you make them shoot that many threes is you make them come back to the mean. It's really hard for a team to shoot 50% from three when they shoot it 32 times. Like that's just a fact. It's statistically, it's how that works. So I really like that. It's going to be a stat that I'm paying close attention to the whole rest of the season. I want to see the ratio of Iowa State's opponents' three-pointers to two-pointers. And if you look at some of these games where Iowa State has really been outshot, the Kansas game. Kansas takes 61 field goals, 24 of them are threes. So 37 twos, 24 threes, and look what happens. They go 50% from three. When the ratio is inverted, when teams are able to get more two-point shots, that generally means more paint shots, and it improves the quality of your three-point shots because your shooters are going to be more open. If you look at the Cincinnati game, again, 69 field goals for them overall. Now, they had 35 twos and 34 threes, so that's almost an even ratio. But the key number there is 35 2-point attempts, right? That's 10 more than UCF was able to take. That's basically 10 offensive rebounds because Iowa State gave up a lot of them in that game. And when you give up 35 2-point shots and they make 20 of them, it's going to be rough, right? Against UCF, Iowa State only gives up 25, shooting about 44%. That game last Saturday, they give up 35 attempts. Cincinnati makes more than half of them, and that was really damaging, even on a day when they only go 10 of 34 from 3. Overall, phenomenal game on Tuesday. There is still stuff Iowa State will have to get better at. I think this win is probably better than most people will give it credit for. The analytics loved it, and they loved it because UCF is the top 40 team analytically. This is a team that I think will be in the NCAA tournament. They have a quality win over Kansas. They're 14-4 overall, 3-3 in the Big 12, and sitting there at 8th, which I think will probably be good enough to get you in at the end of the day. I would guess 8 or 9 is going to be the Big 12 cutoff for making the tournament. And I think UCF is even better than that. I think they're better than a West Virginia team that's right above them. So definitely something to watch with them going forward. How do they play? Can they make this win look better for Iowa State? You probably won't really see that jump to a quad 1 win at any point. It's a quad 2 win at home, a solid win. But look, they got Colorado coming up, Arizona State, and one I would already be on the lookout for is Texas Tech at Central Florida. That's January 31st, an 11 a.m. game, a week from this coming Saturday. Keep an eye on that one because UCF could absolutely upset Tech in that game. They almost did it to Arizona. They did do it to Kansas. That would be a huge win for them. And if they go on a winning streak here, I think it will really bode well for the Cyclones, considering that you were able to beat them by 30 in this game. One last note on that game on Tuesday, I was not super impressed with the crowd, at least on television. It didn't really look too intense. Now, Iowa State led wire to wire, but that was a close game for a significant portion of the first half, and your team is on a 2-game losing streak. Guys, if Iowa State is going to be as good as some of these elite teams, you have to have an elite atmosphere. And I know Hilton is elite when big-time teams come in there, but it's got to be elite night in and night out, right? The fans have to match the team at some point, right? And Iowa State has had no problem filling that arena. But if you're there, and look, I say this, I've only been to 2 home games at Hilton in my life, but, guys, make some noise. It should be intense, whether it is the 16th best team or the best team in the conference coming in there. That's what it is at Kansas. That's what it is at Houston. That's what you're getting to at Texas Tech and BYU. I think Hilton Coliseum is right there with those other 4. I think Allen Fieldhouse is a step above where we're at right now. I would probably put Hilton as the second best atmosphere in the conference. But there's some other good arenas in this conference, man. And if Iowa State fans, what you can't have happen is take the winning for granted and let Hilton become less of a factor. It has to be a factor, always, no matter how good this team is, if you're going to survive the grind of Big 12 play at home. There's some big home games coming up the rest of this year, so I'm not too worried about it. But I would love to see some more energy when Colorado comes in, for instance, next weekend. I think that's absolutely a game where you'll be a huge favorite. Colorado's a decent team. This is similar to the UCF game. That should be a hornet's nest. This is a top 10 team playing to be in the 1 seed conversation. There's no reason it shouldn't be. After that, though, you have some big-time home games. Kansas, Houston, and Texas Tech all come in there at the end of the year. But that will be something to watch going forward as well. Now the Iowa State men go to Stillwater on Saturday to play Oklahoma State. That game is currently scheduled for 3 o'clock. Now, something to watch out for here is there is a massive winter storm setting its sights on Oklahoma. I was hoping to get to this game from Tulsa. May not happen. We'll see. We'll see what the old car can handle, how much snow we actually get. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if this game got rescheduled by a few hours for roads to clear, planes to land, or who knows. I mean, I don't have any of the details, but there's some precedent for this. We saw it when OSU came to Ames a couple years ago. I think they had to reschedule a game there by a few hours. I wouldn't anticipate anything drastic, but if you're looking to catch this game on TV, do be on the lookout for that. There could be late changes to the schedule here. Not something we normally see, but it's going to be a pretty extreme circumstance for Oklahoma here. I know in Iowa we're all used to that kind of thing, but not down here. Not in Oklahoma. This game, I'm not that worried about it right now, and part of that is because I think this is not going to be a very good atmosphere because of the storm. I think this actually could be a huge help to the Cyclones. I think Iowa State was going to go in there, face a desperate OSU team and a raucous crowd. I don't think you'll face the raucous crowd now, and it's really hard to oversell how big of a deal that is. Oklahoma State is a decent team. We saw them play Iowa State in a game that if it was in Stillwater, I think the Cyclones would have lost, right? But Iowa State seems to be playing better basketball now. You catch Oklahoma State at a time where they are desperate. They need a marquee win. Their best win is in conference play, is a home win over UCF. They do have some solid non-conference wins, including a blowout against Texas A&M. But they need a big one right now. They're sitting at 9th in the Big 12, and they have BYU coming into Stillwater a week from Saturday, and then at Arizona after that. Before that, they play at Utah. They have 3. They're at Arizona State. They have 4 very losable games coming up. Iowa State makes 5. They need a big-time wins. They probably need to win at least 2 of those games, including one against BYU, Arizona, or Iowa State, to be in the bubble conversation. I think they will be either way, but to be on the right side of the bubble conversation as we get into February and start looking at who's on the bubble, who's on the wrong side of it, they need big-time wins. They need this one against Iowa State. This is just like going into Kansas. It's just like going into Cincinnati, except now you probably won't have to deal with as much of a crowd. However, Iowa State should not overlook this team. A team that when Iowa State beat them was down their top scorer in Victorious Miller, not their top scorer, their second leading scorer. So we saw Anthony Roy play really well in that game. He's up to 18 points a game and 4 rebounds. Really good player. 45% from 3. Parsifala also played great against Iowa State. 14.5 points a game, 6 rebounds, 46% from 3. And when you throw Victorious Miller in there, he averages 14 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 45% from 3. Guys, the top 3 shooters on this team are unconscious. Maybe not quite to Milan Momcilovic levels, but think about that. You're facing 3 45% shooters on the floor at the same time. This team can score it. They can score it fast. And it's even more impressive when you consider the minute balance for this team. Those 3 guys at the top of their scoring chart average 28 minutes, 25 minutes, and 27 minutes. So just think about that. 18 points a game on 28 minutes a game is incredibly efficient. That's Anthony Roy. Similar numbers for Fala and Miller. This team is very balanced. Those are your top 3 scorers, but they have Jalen Curry, Christian Coleman, and Kanye Clary all averaging between 9 and 11 points a game. Guys who also play in the 22 to 24 minute range there. Oklahoma State has 8 players who play 20 minutes a game. Vukovic plays 15, Jennings 13, Crotty 10. So it's a 10, or Jennings has only played 3 games, sorry. It's a 10-man rotation for OSU right now. I'm not sure. I think they've been playing 9 lately. They have 10 guys who average double-digit minutes per game. All of them can score it. This is an above-average three-point shooting team. After those big 3, the shooting really falls off a cliff with Curry, Coleman, Clary, not good three-point shooters in the 28% range, all of them. But Iowa State is going to have to find a way to defend those top 3 and be more effective than they were in Ames. That game in Ames, If you will remember, Iowa State wins it by 12, 83-71. But Parsifala played a great game. He had 21 points on 8 of 12 shooting. And Anthony Roy scored 19. And neither of those guys was anywhere near their normal three-point percentage. Roy went 5 of 12, that is in the 40% range. He was a little bit below his average. Fala only went 1 for 3. So these guys didn't even have their best shooting game against Iowa State. They shot the ball much better against Baylor after that, and they still gave the Cyclones a run for their money, obviously without one of their better players. So you're going to see a full-strength OSU team who can really score the ball. Iowa State bringing the same defense that they brought on Tuesday is going to be key here. OSU is very similar to UCF in a lot of ways, athletically, with the way they shoot the ball. If Iowa State can force this team, again, to take 30-plus threes, I still like that in the long run, even with their shooters. If you keep them out of the paint, if you keep Parsifala out of the paint, this team, this OSU team, has no other inside scoring ability. Miller can drive it. They'll get him back. But Iowa State's been really good against the dribble drive on the season. It has been the big men who have hurt them down low when Iowa State has been scored on there. Parsifala did it in the last game. He had 7 buckets in the paint. So, again, can Iowa State keep him out of the paint? That will be key to this game. If they force OSU to play outside in, the Pokes can do that, but it won't be good enough to beat a team the caliber of Iowa State. So that is, again, a 3 p.m. game. Could get moved. Be on the lookout for that. And I will put Iowa State on upset alert for this game. And I would define that as saying I think there's a better than 25% chance they lose this game. I don't think they will. I would take Iowa State right now. I think they're in a good spot. I would take them to win and to cover the spread, whatever it's at right now, because I think this team has a chance to really get on a roll. I don't think that we'll see them slide back so quickly into their struggles, but if they do, they will probably lose this game. Iowa State needs to bring, I would say, a B effort or better to win on the road here. I'd love to see a B+ effort or an A effort. That's what it's going to take to win most games in Big 12 play. The Iowa State women also broke a losing streak this week. They had lost 5 in a row, obviously down Addie Brown and Ariana Jackson. They hosted Cincinnati on Wednesday, and they won 93-68 in blowout fashion. But I am not willing to take my hand off the panic button yet for this team, and I'll tell you why. Cincinnati is 7-13. Iowa State had no business losing to that team, even on the road. They hadn't had a top 25 win since like 2019. Maybe it was 2021. Just ridiculously bad women's basketball program. One that has really probably hurt the profile of the Big 12. You bring them in along with some of Cincinnati's better programs, obviously, but this is a bad team. They've always been bad. And Iowa State lost to them on the road, obviously without Addie Brown. But a team with the players, the caliber of the players that Iowa State has, should be able to beat a team like Cincinnati with a D effort at home, maybe a C effort on the road, a C- effort, even without Addie Brown. And Iowa State's game at Cincinnati was a D- or an F. It was really bad. And that's why it's hard to kind of figure out how well this team is actually playing right now, because you beat them by 25 on Wednesday. But you do it with 44 from Jada Williams. How sustainable is that? Now, she went 6 of 10 from 3. Her three-point percentage is really going up. It started in the Baylor game. Now, that game left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths because I think she took 17 threes and missed 11 of them. But that was actually an average three-point shooting day from a college basketball standpoint, and it raised her percentage. She had not been shooting the ball well. It just wasn't good enough on that day to beat Baylor. She's really been boosting it on the season now. I believe she's up to 33.3% from three at home. On the whole, 32.2%. So it's up like 6 percentage points over the last over even this losing streak over the last 6 games. So Jada Williams is becoming more of a threat from there. That's a very positive development, especially if she can keep it up, continue to raise that. She will definitely have the attention, I think, of opposing teams now. You won't see her being left open the way she was against Baylor, and that may honestly even help her confidence, because I think it was pretty clear to see that she was in her own head during that home loss. Ariana Jackson returned for this team also on Wednesday. Scored 11 points. Really good to see her back. Made 3 threes, 8 rebounds. Huge for the Cyclones to have their best defender back. And back playing 31 minutes in a blowout too. So I don't think she was limited in any capacity, which was very good. Evangelina Polk also played 31 minutes in this game. Went 0 of 5 at the free throw line, which is concerning, but she did have 7 rebounds. If she can be a contributor and be at least somewhat of a threat at the free throw line, that will be a big deal for Iowa State going forward. She ate up a lot of the minutes that Elisa Williams has played, frankly. She only played 8 minutes in this game and did make both of her shots. But I thought that Elisa Williams was a pretty clear number 2 to Audie Crooks at the 5 position. We maybe will have to start reevaluating that. Maybe there's a world where 2 of them, or 2 of the 3, are on the court at the same time. We've seen that a little bit at times. It hasn't worked the best, but I'm sure we'll see Iowa State continuing to refine their lineups and how they want to play them there. Reese Beatty played 26 minutes in this game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. She only took 3 shots, didn't make any of them. But the bench minutes, there wasn't a ton of bench production in this game. Iowa State got 9 points off the bench, 0 of 6 free throws, but they did get 5 assists and 14 rebounds and 4 steals. 4 steals for Polk, 1 for Wilson, so 5. And the minutes, 31 for Polk, 26 for Beatty. Eiley Tanky got in this game. Reagan Wilson did as well. And Williams, I think that comes out to over 70 minutes off the bench. That's really good stuff. Even in a blowout win, anytime you get 70 minutes off your bench, it's a good game. Sydney Harris started and played 5 minutes. I'm not sure if she is injured or just wasn't playing her best. Not really sure what's going on there. The reason I'm still concerned about this team, again, this was a very bad team that they beat, and it's just hard to calibrate even with the analytics. Like this should almost be like one of those layup games where you could win by 40 and win by 20 and you don't really learn anything about your team. I don't think we really learned much about Iowa State this game. It did come at a great time to break the losing streak. But again, when you get 44 points from Jada Williams, you wonder how sustainable that is offensively. Now, take it with a grain of salt. It was not a good opponent. But Jada Williams was much more effective getting into the paint. Iowa State was much more effective getting into the paint and scoring from the middle of the court in this game. I believe they had 5 mid-range jumpers, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough to make a defense respect you and open up the paint a little more. And it's a good way to beat extended defenses, the way that we have talked about on this podcast. If you didn't see it, I would recommend go back and look at the individual video. We did cut it out from a segment where we just looked at Iowa State's struggles on the offensive end. We looked at how defenses were attacking them by extending out to deny passes anywhere near the paint, and how Iowa State could attack that by getting the ball into the middle. They have been doing that better and better, even through some of their losses, and they did it pretty well against Cincinnati. I believe Jada Williams also had 4 made shots around the hoop, so seeing her being able to drive and get in the paint was really good. I remember specifically one awesome back cut that she had. That's the kind of action that Iowa State is going to have to use to beat the defenses they've seen. Cutting, again, another way to beat an extended defense. Your defender comes way out beyond the three-point line. Go cut to the hoop. Why not? And they've done a better job of opening up space for that and not having Crooks clog the middle. She had a quiet 24 in this game, 9 of 15 from the floor. It was a pretty good game for Audie. 4 assists was also encouraging because it felt like the ball had really gotten stuck with her at times. Now, there's worse players to have the ball stuck with. She's normally able to muscle it up and draw contact at the least, but we have seen her turn it over under pressure at times, and it felt like she just was having a hard time getting the ball out of her hands if she wasn't able to score it because she would have so many defenders around her. It makes sense. Free throw shooting in this game was a struggle for the Cyclones. They've been decent there on the season. I don't think you'll see 14 of 28 very often. That's really bad, 50%. So you think about this game, Iowa State could easily have put 100 on the board. Rebounding, again, much better, and the bench was a huge part of that. They're going to have to continue to be a huge part of that. So the bench rebounds, assists, steals. Don't really look at the bench scoring if you want to measure production there going forward, because all the scorers are in the starting lineup, and as will Addie Brown when she comes back. Look at the rest. Look at the other stats, right? Crooks, Williams, Brown can handle scoring. Obviously, you've got Ariana Jackson and Kinsey Hare shooting the lights out. So, whether this bench is and it feels like they're coming into their role a little bit more. They're not. It felt for a while like players like Reese Beatty and Reagan Wilson would get in the game and just try to do too much, right? Immediately go get a bucket. They don't need to go get buckets. Iowa State has Williams and Crooks and eventually Brown to do that. They just need their bench to give 100% effort and play defense and rebound. Those are the things that we hadn't seen from the starting lineup or the bench lately, and we got them from the bench last night. Starters were pretty good too, obviously. The ball moved better in this game. 21 assists on 34 field goals is decent. Any game where you have assists on more than half your field goals is pretty solid. It means you're moving the ball reasonably well. They have a good shooting game from 3. It was just a good game, a good opponent to get at the right time for Iowa State. I know they lost to Cincinnati, but this, again, is a team that Iowa State should in no way be struggling with at any point in the season, and I think that road loss will continue to just be an absolute stinker on the resume. It really is. It's been a long time since the Iowa State women lost a game that bad. Not even as bad. Not even some of the UNI losses, I think, damaged them as much as that loss will damage them. But you get off the losing streak, you have to start somewhere. And now you host a bad Cincinnati, Arizona team on Saturday. Sorry, Arizona is actually below Cincinnati in the Big 12 standings. A better overall record, but they are 1-6 in conference play, above only Houston, who Iowa State beat on the road to open conference play. So, I mean, the overall resume for Iowa State, they could win Saturday, and their only conference wins would be against the 3 teams at the bottom of the conference standings and Kansas, who is 12th. So they have currently beaten 3 of the 5 worst teams in the Big 12, and if they win Saturday, it will be 4 of the 5 worst. But you can't overlook this game. I know it's at home, but again, Iowa State has struggled without Addie Brown. Arizona will be probably a better opponent than Cincinnati, but this is a game that with the caliber of players Iowa State has, you should win it by 20 plus. Again, I don't really have a ton to say about that game other than that Iowa State needs to take care of business. That's also at 3 p.m. on Saturday, so men and women potentially going to be on at the same time. That's an FS1 game, so if you don't have ESPN Plus, look forward to maybe catching that one on the side. Iowa State needs to win that game so that they can get to Texas Tech next week. That is a Wednesday game, 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus for some reason. But that will really be the opportunity for Iowa State to get a marquee win in conference play. They haven't had a big-time win since the Iowa game. That win continues to look better and better, so definitely a positive there. But if you beat Arizona, you will go into Lubbock with a chance to get back to 500 in conference play with a huge win. Iowa State is more talented than the Lady Raiders. I certainly think they have a better two players in Crooks and Williams than anyone else. Don't expect Addie Brown to be back for that game. Getting Ariana Jackson back into the swing of things should help as well. Texas Tech is on a losing streak. They have lost 2 in a row. They were 19-0 at one point, but they dropped games to Kansas State and BYU. Middle of the pack teams in the Big 12. BYU currently sitting at 8th and Kansas State 9th in the conference. They're both 4-3. Decent teams, but not ones that undefeated Texas Tech should be losing to. And they now drop to 19th in the AP Top 25. But again, it's still an opportunity for Iowa State. Probably a good time to catch this team if they're on a slide. And that will really be the game to watch. Again, Iowa State should take care of business against Arizona. If they don't, I mean, we have seen, again, it wouldn't be, the biggest shock because we've not seen great basketball recently, but it feels like a win was just, they just needed one to kind of get their mojo back. It's a real thing mentally. When you're on a losing streak, you just got to find a way to get that first win. Iowa State got the right opponent, got that win. You get another easy opponent in Arizona on Saturday, and then opportunity time. So let's hope the Cyclones can make it to Lubbock without losing another game. And we'll do a full preview of that game because I've watched some of the Texas Tech team, and I have a lot to say about that one on Sunday. Around the Big 12 on the women's side, it was TCU losing to Ohio State on Monday. They had a lead, and they blew it. They played a very good game against a very strong opponent out of the Big Ten. Ohio State now 17-2 on the season. Authors a fourth quarter comeback to win 71-69. Tough result for the conference. Not the worst ever. It was good at least to see TCU compete and dominate Ohio State really for portions of this game. You'd love to see them hold on to that win. It would have been a big win for the conference. And that combined with the Texas Tech losses kind of starting to hurt what this conference looks like overall now. For a while there, it really seemed like the Big 12 was going to be better on the women's side than anticipated, even with Iowa State struggles. Not really sure where we're at there now. Won't have any more non-conference opportunities, obviously. That was kind of a unicorn game there on MLK Day in the middle of conference play. But hey, this conference is still deep, and you have a chance to put 7-ish teams in the Big 12 tournament. I think that there's absolutely potential for that. And to that end, you had Kansas and Arizona, not really a game with much consequence there on Tuesday night. But on Wednesday, Baylor destroys UCF. They move to 18-3, 7-1. That is huge. They have the reputation, more so than anyone else in this conference, in women's basketball. They have the pedigree, and right now they're playing like it after a tough start. They have won, I believe, 7 in a row now, and they move into first place in the Big 12. And they're playing like it back in the top 15 of the AP Top 25. Texas Tech, we mentioned their loss to BYU on the road. Still not a great loss for Tech, but it puts BYU right into the thick of that tournament discussion. They were a desperate team looking for a marquee win. They got it. They moved to 15-4, 4-3 with a huge win on the resume. I like where BYU is at. West Virginia beats Arizona State 53-43 in an ugly game that featured, until the fourth quarter, no more than 13 points by either team in any quarter. West Virginia had 19 in the fourth to break that streak. But hey, the Mountaineers also back in the AP Top 25, moved to 16-4. I mentioned last week, look for them to maybe slide in there and give the Big 12 another ranked team. They did that. They also took care of business. Now, Arizona State is a team that we talked about last week. They went undefeated in the non-con, 13-0, and right now they're 4-3. They really don't have a marquee win. They need one to back up their overall record. Now they play Cincinnati and Arizona coming up, so they won't really have a chance until they host Oklahoma State and then go to Baylor. But they play Cincinnati, Arizona, and Kansas State before then. So look for the Sun Devils if they are the team that their record says they are, which is not always the case. But if they're as good as their 17-3 record, they'll go 3-0 in that stretch and host a big-time game against OSU in a couple weeks. Kansas State beats Houston. They are 4-3 in the Big 12, are the Wildcats, but at 11-9 overall, probably not looking at a team that's in tournament contention. So I would prefer to see some of these teams that are maybe in the bubble conversation pick up. I'd rather see them pick up wins than Kansas State at this point. Now on Saturday, we talked about Iowa State hosting Arizona. That game's at 3 p.m. on FS1. Arizona State goes to Cincinnati. Again, Sun Devils should win that game. You kind of need it for the Big 12. TCU is at UCF. I know TCU just came off a heartbreaker, but you got to get off the mat. They've had 5 days to do it. They need to find a way to win that one on the road. Again, the only Big 12 team in the top 10 right now. Texas Tech goes to Utah. And I'll put Texas Tech on upset alert. I'm not even sure. There's no line on this game, but I'm not sure who would be favored if there was. Utah is 5-2 in conference play. They're a team that's looking to be at NCAA tournament contention. I would say they are right now. And they get a home game against a ranked team coming in. This is not a great spot for Texas Tech if you're trying to get off of a losing streak. So do keep an eye on that game. I would call that a toss-up. It's a 6 p.m. game on Saturday. And finally on Saturday, West Virginia is at BYU. Either way, you can't really there's not really a result that would benefit or hurt the conference here. If BYU wins, you might be looking at a ranked BYU next week. If West Virginia wins, they will continue to rise. More important is what the loser of that game does. Can they get off the mat? On Sunday, Kansas State at Kansas. Kansas 2-6 in the Big 12, but with a better overall record than Kansas State. Don't really have a great feel on that one. I would expect Kansas to maybe come out with a win. And Oklahoma State is at Colorado. Colorado is a team that has showed some fight. They have 3 conference wins, but Oklahoma State is the better team. They need to find a way to come away with this win. If they do, they will be 6-2 and knocking on the door of the top 25. This conference, again, looks really deep right now, but maybe lacks the talent at the top of the league, the elite teams to go make a Final Four run. Baylor and TCU are the teams to keep an eye on. They are the ones that could make a run deep into March Madness if they get things figured out. So those are the 2 teams that moving forward I would watch and say I want to see those teams win. I absolutely do, except when Iowa State plays them, obviously. But you want those to be highly ranked teams for the conference, for Iowa State to get more chances to build up their resume, because they can go toe-to-toe, and they have with Baylor, and they absolutely can with TCU. But you want those teams to continue to win. Man, the top tier of the Big 12, after those 2 teams, between Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Utah, BYU, Arizona State, there are a lot of potential tournament teams in this conference. For the sake of the Big 12, I would prefer to see all those teams continue winning games. It's unfortunate, but the bottom of the league is not very good. This is not the same as the men's side, where anyone could really beat anyone. It's true of women's basketball generally that the talent gap is much bigger, top to bottom. And if Iowa State's going to get a lot of teams into the tournament, they need to have a lot of teams finish, in the 22 win range or better, I would say. Looking at Arizona State, looking at BYU and Utah, teams that I would say are on the bubble right now. I'd probably put Iowa State on the bubble too. They have better wins than any of those teams, really. but they also have some horrible losses. So again, Cyclones I'd also put right there, even though they're 3-5 in the conference. A couple wins would put the Cyclones right back easily into the tournament with how they performed in non-conference play. Iowa State needs to find a way to get to 500. I think if you finish 500 or better, you're easily in, maybe even in at 8-10. We'll see. But for now, that is all that we have on the women. Going around the Big 12 on the men's side, we'll finish off here with some Big 12 men's basketball. West Virginia is at Arizona. That's 1 p.m. Saturday. That's the CBS game. West Virginia feels like they've been on national TV a lot lately on Fox CBS. You love to see that program with a lot of history there, and one that is 4-2 in conference play, and they have a chance to play themselves into tournament contention. I wouldn't say they're there yet, maybe on the edge of the bubble right now. At Arizona is an opportunity for sure, but it's not one that I like them, where I'd like them to come out on top. Arizona, I would expect to roll here and get to 20-0. Again, number one team in the country. Phenomenal what they're doing right now. The question for West Virginia will be, if you lose that game, can you recover? They play Kansas State and Baylor next week, both at home. So you could easily be looking, even with a loss, at a 6-3 West Virginia team this time next week. That's what I'm hoping for. The big one, Houston is at Texas Tech. That is also 1 p.m. It's on ESPN on Saturday. USA, phenomenal arena. We just saw BYU go down there and lose. Houston is playing Houston and Arizona, I would say, have moved just a tick above BYU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech in this conference. In terms of the caliber of basketball they're playing, they're ranked number 6. I think they're playing like the second best team in the country right now. But Texas Tech could change that in a hurry, and maybe not even change that. Houston could probably play a B-plus game here, and Texas Tech could still win if they bring their A game. We saw Texas Tech lose a close one in Houston. Now Houston makes the return trip. They're favored by 3.5. I wouldn't bet a dime on this game. I think it's a toss-up. If anyone's going to go into the USA and win, it would be Houston. But man, that place is going to be rocking. I cannot wait to watch that game on Saturday. UCF Colorado at 2. I would love to see UCF pull this one out on the road. For some reason, tickets to that game are $183 right now. It makes no sense. But if UCF is going to be a tournament team, these are games you got to win. Probably a quad 2 opportunity for them. Utah is at BYU. Not much to say about that one. I certainly hope BYU doesn't mess around with that team. It's on Fox at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday. BYU should roll there. TCU is at Baylor. Both of these teams possess the talent to make the tournament. Right now, neither of them would be in or particularly close. The winner of this game is going to have a chance to do something, okay? Baylor at 1-5 in conference play. It's not great. TCU's 2-4. Look for maybe a statement win by one of these teams, kickstarting a winning streak. That would be really good for the conference if you can get at least one of those teams into March Madness. I think TCU is the better team, but that's a road game and away go. I'll be really fascinated to see who comes out on top in that one. Kansas at Kansas State. Kansas is playing great basketball right now. Please do not mess around with this Kansas State team. They are not good, despite PJ Haggerty playing really good basketball. Kansas State and Jerome Tang are not playing great right now, but they have had Kansas's number in the Octagon of Doom down there in Bramlage. Kansas needs to come out with a win here. This needs to be the year they beat Tang on the road just to keep this momentum going, because it feels like Kansas has all sorts of momentum right now. They're only 14-5. Like, nothing that impressive record-wise, even after 3 straight wins. It just goes to show how rough of a start they had. Kansas needs to keep elevating for the sake of this conference. And finally, Cincinnati is at Arizona State in a game of little consequence. Once again, this is Eye of the Storm. My name is Edwin Thorpe, and we will be back here on Sunday or Monday to react to the weekend games. Again, Iowa State men on the road to Oklahoma State Saturday. That game potentially in flux, so keep an eye out for it because of weather. Iowa State women hosting Arizona on Saturday, also at 3 o'clock. Catch both of those games if you can. We will be back here to react to all of it and preview the midweek games on the next episode of Eye of the Storm. For now, thank you so much for listening. Have a great weekend, and God bless.